Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Jesse here, also known as Retroactive J. I just wanted to do a little quick tutorial. This is going to be my first real tutorial on YouTube, so forgive me if it may be a little unscripted and not well prepared, but I'm going to do the best I can. I kind of want to show everybody how I kind of do my sprite working. I've had people ask for commissions, and I've used to, offer commissions, but honestly, I'm, getting busy and I don't really necessarily want to do that stuff. I kind of want to enjoy streaming my own video games and on Twitch TV and stuff like that. So, with that said, somebody was asking me, like, hey, I really need to learn all this, and I was like, well, maybe I can put together a YouTube video on how about go about doing this and capturing it straight from a game, and making it come to life like it looked like it came straight out of a game. I'm not going to go into too much specific details, but what this video is going to go into, more importantly, is going to be showing you how to uh, basically rip your own images from a game, a video, whatever you want, and how to open it up in GIMP and be able to animate and organize the layers. Ways to go about getting rid of the background, etc. Little things like that. Ways to make it look a little bit more fluid. I'm not going to go into too much detail as far as like customization that I do, but I feel from these little things put together in one video, which I haven't really seen. I've seen, and I'm going to be using a couple of programs. First one's going to be ScreenGet. I'm sorry, and the second one's going to be GIMP. And then the third and optional program is going to be bulk rename utility. And I'll show you all what they do here in one sec. Alright, so this is my desktop, and let's get started here. So right here I have ScreenGet, and I'll start by introducing you to this program. Let's see. Right now, and let me back out of here. Whoops. Anyways, right now I have ScreenGet open. What this little thing does, if you couldn't figure it out, just in case, is this captures a window screen on your computer. No matter what the size, it'll try to capture. However, I will say a couple of things right off the bat. First off, try once you get this program, you get it installed on your computer, and I'll show you a link in the description that'll show you where to get this free software. But you're gonna want to hit config. Now the default settings are on here. The frame delay is going to be 16 milliseconds. This means basically it'll capture a image every 16 frames. What this does essentially is what 16 let me start with what 16 milliseconds really is. This is 60 frames per second. And this number is going to be very important on what you want to capture, how much you want to capture. The smaller this number is, the more frames you're going to have in your animation, the more editing you're going to want to do with it. I recommend don't, like, as far as animating purposes go, I would recommend going with 32, which is going to be 30 frames per second. On top of that, let's see, for older games, actually most older games are going to run at 60 frames per second, and with 32 you're basically getting every other frame. You don't need every you don't need every single frame in a animation to make it look fluid for a GIF. For the purposes I use them is actually to make my stream look a little bit more flashy, give or take, not by much, mind you, but little things like here and there. And for animation purposes, I would recommend capturing 32 because for the purposes of this guide in particular is that I don't want to make a sprite sheet. I don't want to rip sprites. I just want to make a nice fluid animation out of it, and 30 frames per second seems to be fairly standard. Now I could also bump this up to 50 and work from there as well, but again, with 50, like, I'm not sure I would recommend it for older games though. Maybe for indie games you can definitely do 50 because there are a lot more. Indie games tend to be vector. They don't seem to confine to any set frame necessarily. Unlike the old school games are pretty much set to like 60 frames per second. So if you do it to 30 frames per second or 32 milliseconds, basically you get every other frame. Let's see, a couple other things. The file path to begin with is going to be it's going to go to the screen get folder, which is which has the application in it. I recommend always creating a new folder, and I've already created a folder, in this case demo, and having it path to that said folder like I have here, and that way it'll just dump everything into there. And I recommend for each and every screen capture you do, it have its own separate path folder. That way whenever you do record, and then if you do not create a separate folder, it overwrites what you captured before, and you don't want to have to redo work or anything like that. So I just recommend each time you start up the program, create a new folder for it, and kind of go from there. I'm not going to show you in this case scenario because I showed you already got my folder set up for the game, for the screen capture. I'm sorry. Let's see. Other than that, the output format, I think it's at .bmp to start off with. I could be wrong, but that's going to be bitmap, and that preserves the image very well. It's going to be a larger file size. For all intents and purposes, like I said, I'm not here about preserving the file size. I'm ripping a sprite sheet, so what I would like to do is do it as a .ping, which is going to be a portal network graphic, I believe, and that'll make the file size a little bit smaller. I mean, every little bit counts in my opinion. And then let's see. Other than that, I always keep redundant frames unchecked. Basically, this will get rid of basically once the screen capture is done. Say like right now we're on the start screen of this game, Needhog. If I'm on the start screen of this game and I start capturing, it'll get rid of all the extra start screen captures and keep only the ones that aren't exactly the same. That's one of the neat things I like about this program. So anyways, other than that, one of the things I will say right off the bat that I have figured out that weren't really told to me, or maybe I just didn't research enough, is that I would recommend putting the game you want to capture, or whatever image, video, whatever you want to capture, into the smallest ratio. That way, because the screen get, it's a good program and all, but it does have its limitations when you get to larger image sizes, and a multiple of image sizes too. So that's another reason why I recommend taking it off the 16, especially for indie games that you got about, the size of Needhog right here. I would recommend, changing it to from 16 to at least 32, maybe even bump it up to 50, like I said, for indie games. For retro games, you're using an emulator, it's going to be really small, and I would recommend just keeping, make it to the smallest ratio and take off the interlacing on those emulators. But I'm not going to go too much into that for legalities, but just to touch base on, you may want an old school game rip. I would recommend doing it to the smallest ratio and take off any interlacing or interpolation or whatever they may call it, to where it doesn't look blurred or anything like that. You want hard, jagged pixels when ripping with this. And let's see, other than that, I think we're good to go. And I'm gonna go ahead and let's see, we're gonna hit OK on here. I'm gonna set this aside here, and let's see, hopefully this will work. Okay. Now I hit save. I didn't want to really record too much, but as you can see here, 69 frames saved, 64 redundant screens deleted. That means it was probably at a pause screen where a lot of those redundant frames came from. So it just went ahead and got rid of all those extra pause screens that I didn't really want to see. I didn't really even want. So anyways, I just made that nice and short just to capture an example. Now what we're going to do, we're going to open up the second program. We are all done with ScreenGet. I will show you here. Here's the folder it dumped into. As you can see, I did get some start screens. In fact, I should have had many more, but it got rid of all the redundant ones. Same, thing with this frame on 69. It ended here. I don't know if there was redundant frames on here as well or not, but I'm pretty sure I probably got rid of some on there as well because I paused it. Yeah. So let's see. So yeah, I pretty much got what I want. Now from here, you can also delete. Hey, I say I don't want all these pause screens on here. I don't really care about this. I can go ahead and just delete what I don't need from here and generally you could delete like some of the first stuff and some of the last stuff as well. So anyways, so without further ado, we are done with our game. We are done with ScreenGet, and like I said, it might take a little practice or anything, to get that going and get used to that. And if I let that go for a really long time, it would overload because, like I said, it's best in the smallest format. Unfortunately, Needhog, that was the smallest format I can get it into. So, any full screen games you're going to want to take out and put into window mode if possible. Understandably, some games, they just don't offer or don't cooperate as well in window mode, but it is what it is. And you can capture in full screen mode. It's just it has a tendency to overload. Anyways, without further ado, you're gonna open up GIMP. You're gonna go to open as layers. This is very important, especially for animations. We're gonna open as layers. I already have it saved. ScreenGet added as one of my folders. Let's see. But let me just show you here. We're gonna go look for ScreenGet. That's my phone dying right now. And we're gonna go to demo. Let's see. And mind you, normally I would open all these up and I would do Control A, but in this case scenario, I kind of don't want to be showing. Oh crap! I think I just opened all of them. Oh yeah, there it goes. It says it's showing a preview of all of them. No, but and maybe that might be good for you to know. And honestly, I kind of just accidentally did that. But regardless, anyways, here's what I want to do. I want to capture. I want to capture like the guy jumping into his mouth. So we're gonna do Shift. We're gonna do like these 10 frames here. Well, I don't know how many that is. It's probably like 8. God, can I count? So okay, once you got the images you want open, let's see. I'll minimize that, get that out of my way, and I'll maximize all this. Once you get the images you want, first thing I would always recommend is going to Filters, Animation, Playback. And let's play back and see it. Now, one of the things I'm noticing right off the bat is that he's going backwards for whatever reason. Sometimes GIMP has been a little weird, and I'm not gonna lie, it's a little weird. To where it'll open up the, and you'll open up and you'll do animation playback and it'll be in the right order, and sometimes it doesn't. But I'll show you a couple options as far as fixing that. The first option is you can take these layers and reorder them. You can reorder, them to the right order. But let's say if you're somebody like me who's dealing with 100 frames sometimes, and reordering them is going to take hours. This is where this little tool comes in. This is bulk rename utility. Let's see. Because like I said, I was dealing with 100 frames one time. I was like, this is just god awful. I don't know or want to deal with having to reorder all these freaking pictures just for this animation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to where I have that folder of demo, and I'm going to rename the numbers on the end of them. So basically it'll be in the opposite order. And let's see, screen get, and let's see, we're gonna do demo, and what we're gonna do from here, we're gonna do select all, and you can either put this to, you can either put this to insert, or you could put this to suffix, or like the couple I would recommend. Let's see. I would recommend, because the numbers on these don't necessarily matter. I always put start to 999. I put increase to, or I guess that could be also taken as increment, to -1. And let's see. And then I bump this all the way until this is at the end where it says .png. And then I also go to, and let's see, I also go to the remove section here. I start from here. I take out all the other numbers in there, and I go from A to the rest of them. Basically, it doesn't really matter at that point. So to where I got 999. Whoops. Don't do scroll, apparently. That changes things a little bit. But I basically got starting from 999 counting down. And like I said, numbers don't necessarily have a matter. I just want to change the order in this folder. For when they open up in GIMP, they'll be in the exact order I want them. So we're going to go ahead and rename that. It's going to ask 63 files and or folders are about to be processed. Once you do this, there's no going back. And I'm going to be like, yeah, I know what I'm doing, fool, and do this. And then 63 items have been processed. We're going to be done with here. And I tell you what, we're going to close out of GIMP. No, I'm going to discard changes. And then I'm going to file, open as layers once again. And let's see if I can find those images once again. Now it's probably going to be more towards the bottom. And okay, basically I'm going to go to screen get, I'm going to go to demo. Oh, whoops, I'm sorry. I had them organized by date modified, and we're going to organize them by file name. I was kind of weirded out by that, but we're going to do them file name. And here we go. I guess another thing you could do is have them in file name in the opposite way, but I don't know if that'll really help. I'm always just want to introduce, well, regardless, I'll introduce you to the bulk utility rename, just in case you need it. Let's see. And that's just how I've gotten used to it personally. So. Yeah, we're going to do it to those. And like I said, filters, we're going to go to animations, we're going to do playback. And see, now it's going the exact way I want them to. This is perfect. This is exactly what I want. I want him running towards the Needhog and being eaten by this giant worm. Very fun game if you haven't tried, by the way. So, from here, one of the things you will notice is that with the screen get, it did capture the actual whole window. It did not capture just what's within the window. It captured the whole thing, including the, the window name, and then the window icon, the closing, and then just the borders on the side. And obviously we don't want all that. So for starters, what you're want to do is basically what I personally do. I take a couple of steps when doing this. Well, let me maximize this. I do a selection to where I got everything aside from that window icon, the the window name, and like all these icons on the left here, on the right here. And I go to image, I crop to selection, and go from there. And then the next option, you really have two options here. You can do, let's see. You can either, like, if you have your borders black like I do, not necessary thing. I personally like my borders black for when I'm playing games and I have to play them in window mode for when I'm streaming. But I'll show you two options here. I don't know if this will necessarily work on colors, but you can do auto crop image. Um, and with that, I know definitely with the black, it'll auto crop to just the game itself. I'm gonna edit undo that and show you the other option, which would be to Control A, and that's select all for those who don't know. That is select all, and you're gonna want to go to this little hand with the colors here. This is your color select tool, or select by color tool. Actually, with this one, I'm sorry, you're gonna want to go to your fuzzy select tool, and you're gonna want to get that. This is basically your magic wand. I would use the subtraction tool, and for this you're gonna want to do the threshold to 0, and that'll basically crop out your border, and then you go to, or that'll basically just select everything but the border, and then you're gonna want to crop selection as well, and then you're done. A good way to double check and see if you did this right is to look at the above, and it'll tell you, you know, what your canvas size is. Mine right now says I got 960 by 600, which basically means generally if it ends in a 0, you've done it right. You've done, you know, you've gotten everything you wanted. Now, another way to check that is you can go to image canvas size, check it here. You got 960 by 600. You don't have to resize anything. You just want to check and see those numbers up front. Anyways, so with that said, let's get to the actual animation process. There's a couple of ways to do this. I've personally gotten so comfortable to where I can do it with all the visible frames, you know, all the layers visible. But, you know, for the intents and purposes of this tutorial, you're going to want to uncheck all these eyeballs. So you're dealing with one layer at a time. Right now, though, even though I unchecked all the eyeballs and this is the only visible layer, I have not selected that layer yet. You're going to want to click on that, actually selecting the layer, and now you're actually selecting, you know, and editing this layer. Now I just want to get rid of this background. I'm like, this background sucks. I don't want it in any of my animation at all. I just want a transparent background. So what we're going to want to do is, I would recommend, there's a couple of ways you can go about this. You can do the fuzzy select tool. You can even up the threshold, and you know, you could do the add. And just to give you a quick breakdown, the first one will replace the current selection. The second one's going to add to the current selection, and then the third one's going to subtract from the current selection. And then I don't really use the intersect with current selection. I really haven't put that to use yet, but you know, if you find a use for it, feel free to. So in this case scenario, I'll show you. You can do the add to current selection, and I up the threshold to 15. And let's see, I did this. I'm just selecting everything that's not my guy right here. Because I only want to deal with my guy. Now, I've done a lot with the fuzzy select, and mind you, I can go by and do each and every one. Well, what I'll do, I'll switch to the rectangle dude. I'm like, well, I got everything but him here, and I got little pieces here I know I'm not going to want. So I'll just do the same thing with the rectangle select, and I'll swap it to the add to current selection, and then I will drag and select everything, and select everything there. And right now I got everything but the guy selected. So, and then I hit delete and I got exactly what I want left. Now that's the first method I really started off with. I'm not gonna lie, it gets kind of annoying to do it that way. So here's the method I would highly recommend compared to everything else. You're gonna want to you're gonna want to Control A, which is select all once again. And what I do personally is I take the color select tool and then I change him. Especially in this case scenario, I could also do it with the fuzzy select tool, but in this case scenario, none of the Needhog or the Running Man have anything in common with the background, aside from this yellow go maybe. But even then, I can just do a rectangle select tool on that. So basically, I just take the color select tool and I do the subtract from current selection, and then I also, in this case, I know I can bump down the threshold to 0 because they're all solid colors. This is one of the reasons why I chose this, for example. So what you're only going to do is, oh, you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to select the right frame. See, this is very important. Even though I clicked off, even though I made this one invisible, I did not select the right, frame that I'm actually looking at. So always remember to select the right frame. Very easy to do, but very easy to fix as well. It just gets a little annoying to have to Control Z and undo things. But anyways, so what I'm going to want to do here, now that I have the right frame selected, is do subtract the dude out. I'm going to subtract the Needhog out, every little bit here and there. And let's see, I got everything. Now you can see I got some of the go on here. Like I said, I could just take the rectangle tool and do the add to selection and we're good to go on there. Then I can delete. That is so much easier compared to, like I said, selecting each and every little bit. Now, this is the next part I kind of want to show you. Well, you know what? We'll do 3 frames here just to show you a solid example. And you know what? I'll just go ahead and do, and then all 3 frames will give you a good idea of the next lesson, I guess. So I'll just go ahead and rinse and repeat. I got the frame selected. We're gonna do subtract, 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 subtract. And I got everything. And we're gonna go back to here. And we got everything selected here. And then I'm gonna want to delete this out. Now, one of the things I want to show you is that you notice the guy is kind of stacked on top of himself. It looks like he's going nowhere because all we saw was the background moving. One of the cool things you can do is, let's say I want to measure from like the front of his head. So, whoops. I'll show you here. I'm going to go to all the way to the right, the left edge here, and I'm going to pull out this little bar. This is a guide. This will help you kind of gauge the spacing on this, on where you want to move him. Let's see. For the intents and purposes of this, we're gonna move him, I guess, I don't know if you would call that every inch. I don't know. I guess what, every 100 pixels or so. I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, I believe that's every 100 pixels right there. So for all intents and purposes, I'm gonna want to move him every 100 pixels, just for example. And tell you what, I'm gonna go ahead and to delete these layers, because like I said, I'm just doing this as a little demo. And let's see, filters, play, and then we're gonna go to animation. I'll show you what it looks like right now. Yeah, that's not really showing much. So you're like, why is he doing this? And you know, like moving in the same space. Also, one of the things with your playback is that it's going to show multiple of the guy when you first do this. And I'll go and show you the easiest way to go about, like in playback, it shows you the motion, but with it stacks up the frames, because we haven't really set that up yet. In fact, I find it easiest to set that up during the export process, and I'll show you that in a sec as well. But anyways, so you get the point. The guy's kind of moving on top of himself. That's kind of stupid. Well, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to use my select tool. I'm going to change it to this select tool. Oh, by the way, if you ever have a selection that you want to unselect, I'd recommend going to the rectangle tool, and just tapping anywhere, and that'll undo any of your selections, like this. So what you're going to do, you're basically, I would recommend knowing these shortcuts. You can also, edit, cut, right click and cut. Oh, I'm sorry. Again, it's important to be on the right frame. Apparently, I was on this layer, so I need to be on the bottom layer. That's the one I want to edit. So you can right click, you can cut from here, and then I don't know if there's a better way to move things or not, but this is personally how I do it, and I'm fine just with this personally. So what you do is you right click and you paste. And let's see. And then I always hit the object I'm trying to paste, and I always use the arrow keys to move it to exactly the line I want and keep it at the same exact height. I rather not use the mouse to drag and drop them, because I feel like that can be inaccurate sometimes, and I might be a little OCD. So there we go. We have this first position there, and then I'm going to open up the second guy, and again, make sure I have the right one selected. And honestly, once you have selected, I recommend knowing this is going to be Control X, that's going to be cut, and Control V, which is going to be paste. Especially saves a lot of time and effort if you're working on multiple frames, like hundreds of frames, for example, whatever you may want to do. And we're pretty much done here. Like I said, this is just going to be a short little animation. Let's see. But yeah, he's moving forward, and that's all that really matters. I probably could have spaced him, closer to himself, maybe, but it's whatever. And I probably could have done a couple more frames, but for the intensive purposes of this tutorial, just rinse and repeat. And I kind of expect people to, pick up on what I'm putting down. Hopefully, do feel free to leave in the comments if you do got questions that I can't, I haven't answered in this video. But anyways, so we're going to do export, and this is where things get really important. I'm going to export this to, I'm going to do this to my documents. Demo, we're going to do this, we're going to call this demo animation dot gif, and whatever you want to name it, dot gif. I can't think off the top of my head what GIF stands for. I'm sure, I could Google it. But regardless, that if you want to save it as an animation, which we do, you're going to want to do it as a .gif or GIF, as some people call it. It's going to give you GIF options. I always leave this unchecked. I have this checked, but I don't really mess with it really. Created with GIMP, whatever. I really don't care about that necessarily. We're gonna check as animation. We're gonna in this I'm gonna have loop forever checked. And let's see. The important thing to know is if you're messing with something transparent that's walking across, you're gonna want to use 1 frame per layer, replace. And this is where I would check use delay entered above for all frames, and check use disposal enter for all frames. And oh yes, and of course, choose what timing you want on this. I'm gonna set this to 50. Just for, I guess, example purposes, I'm going to set this to 50 milliseconds. You can set it higher, you can set it lower, set it to whatever you feel best, but it only works in increments of 10. If you set it to 35, I think it bumps it up to 40, it might run down to 30. But as far as I know, GIMP only likes increments of 10, and it will round up or down to the nearest 1. So, with that in mind, just do it to 30 or 50 or whatever you want, and you'll figure it out. Whatever looks best for you. If worst comes to worst, you can re-export it and, do, the right, timing you want on there. So we're going to export it, and then, here's what I'll do. I'll add that image into the video real quick, just to show you an example. It looks kind of ridiculous, but it's getting the point across, really. You see the guy moving forward. Like I said, this is a really rough draft. Mind you, you can, just for example purposes, but this is a really rough draft. But, and again, it's going to be one of those things you'll want to play with and figure out what works best for you. So, for right now, I'm going to turn this off. Now, let's say I wanted to mess with, you don't want every single frame to be the exact same delay on there. There's a little tips and tricks you can do. And now we're pretty much done with this. We got the image to what we wanted. Like I said, rough draft. Nothing fancy right here, but just showing you how to get things done. We're gonna go to open recent, and you're gonna open that GIF animation you just exported. So here we go. I got it here. Now, one of the things you will notice is in your layers is that there's been some things added by the program itself, such as replace, and you see these 50 MSs here. So this basically tells the program when it exports what it's going to want to use. So we're going to have a delay really long on the second frame just to show it, really kind of pause there. And we're going to do, I don't know, we'll do 500 ms, and you're going to want to hit enter, because if you hit anything else or you click away from it, it'll go back to 50. So you'll want to hit 0, you'll want to hit whatever you want in there and then hit enter, and then that'll save it in there. And then you're going to do let's see, export as. In this case scenario, I feel like with GIF animations, you'll always want to do export as in GIMP, because it does give you a couple more options as you export it, as you do the export as. And you're gonna uncheck use delay for enter above for all frames, and really you can keep this checked and keep it as replaced. This doesn't necessarily matter because you already have it exported in there, and it already has the replace already put into the layer name. So this doesn't matter. If anything, it might be safer just to do frame disposal as replace one frame per layer, replace, and then use the disposal above. But for this case purposes, we don't want the delays to all be the same, so I unchecked that, and because I already had change, and I'll export that. And let me open up that image. And show you here. It looks kind of goofy, but it gets the point across, is that on the second frame it's pausing a real long time. It's pausing 10 times more than what the other two frames are doing. So it looks really jerky, and honestly, it's whatever. I really it's a good example of showing you how to do this using all free software. Let's see. Other than that, I think that's pretty much everything I want to cover, more or less, as far as using GIMP. Like I said, I'm not going to go into too much as far as like doing your custom sprite work or actually editing the image. More or less moving the image, taking out that background, capturing your own sprites, I think would be a good start on your own. There's plenty of GIMP tutorials as far as how you can further customize your own stuff, and what you can take from those GIMP tutorials. But I think having the screen get partnered with GIMP in one video and showing how you can intertwine them, and like if you have problems with the order, you can do the bulk rename utility, would be a great help. Little things I learned here and there. And honestly, my method at first wasn't all that solid. But anyways, if you enjoy this video, feel free to like, subscribe, comment, or if you've got any pointers or tips, maybe I should add in the next video. Do let me know as well. Like I said, this is the first YouTube video, but I want to thank everybody for watching. Like I said, I mostly use this for streams and on Twitch TV. You can also follow me on Twitter, or subscribe on Facebook, and or subscribe on YouTube. And I also got a Facebook, which I'm not a big fan of, but it's there. But y'all have a good night. Thanks for watching.